morning, good afternoon, or good night, whenever this episode finds you. I'm your host, Andrew Tremendous Jones. Today, we have a holistic health coach. Let me say that correctly. Sarah, how you doing today?
Hi, Andrew. I'm great. Thank you. It's great to meet you and be in front of your audience.
Likewise, likewise. So, before we hit record, me and you kind of went off, right? But I kind of want to let our audience know more in depth what it is that you do and who it is that you serve.
So I'm an entrepreneur. I didn't always used to be though. I used to be a registered nurse, but I left the hospital. I became an entrepreneur, which led me to become an award-winning entrepreneur in the health and wellness space. And the people I serve are those failed by the medical system who want to take back control of their health and step away from the hospital and the pills and be responsible for their own health and healing.
Most definitely. I see that you have a book there. You want to tell us more about your book?
Thank you. My book, Heal Yourself, came out of my own healing, a whole slew of health problems. And so I started to write about what I'd healed and how I'd healed because being a registered nurse, I didn't know about alternative healing and natural self-healing. It was only doctors and pharmaceuticals and hospitals. It was only when I was challenged and started looking into it that I realized what was possible. So I wrote about my own healing and then I reached out on the internet for other people to share their healing. 74 people came forwards sharing healing from things like ALS or MND, as we call it in the UK, multiple sclerosis, autoimmune disorders, Lyme, cancer, stroke, sensitivities, allergies, endometriosis, so many different health problems. And all of these people have healed themselves away from hospitals, doctors, and medicines.
So, what daily practice healed your deepest emotional wounds?
Oof, that was a lot of inner work.
Mhm.
And actually, it was way down my journey before I even realized that the emotional work was something that we needed to do. Because I started out in the physical plane being a nurse. I'm like, well, nutrition and exercise and hydration and sleep. And whilst they're important, they're not, well, how can I phrase this? The emotional side of healing is huge compared to the physical, the mental, and the spiritual healing, because a lot of our health problems, our symptoms, our diseases come from a mind that's not at rest. And that mind not at rest manifests symptoms in our body.
Most definitely. So, what core belief shift unlock your natural self healing journey?
You have to believe that you can heal yourself.
Right.
That is the core belief. And for me, when I was challenged on my beliefs, because up to 41, I only believed in doctors and medicines and pharmaceuticals and hospitals. And when my belief around that was challenged, that's when I went off on my own journey. And my belief that when I'm sick, I need a doctor and a pill was challenged. And so I'm starting to think, well, what else is there if there's no doctor and pill? How else does healing happen? So that's when I started researching and found other people healing. So I thought, well, if they can heal on the internet and they're writing about what they've healed, is it possible for me to heal? And at the time, I didn't truly believe that I could heal because I had no tangible evidence. It was only after I started tweaking my food, my lifestyle, my thoughts, my emotions, that I saw tangible results in my own self. And that was what led me to believe that, yes, it's possible for me to heal myself. So for somebody else, the same holds true. They have to believe that they can heal their body, but they also have to believe that they don't necessarily need a doctor and a pill.
So, what does self healing look like beyond just, going to therapy? Like, what does that really look like? And can you put a time frame on that, or is it like a lifelong journey? Like, what does that look like?
So the time frame is however long it takes, because we're all different.
Mhm.
And self-healing looks like taking care of myself, actually. And I devised 4 pillars of health after my own healing and reading all these people in my book who'd healed the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And to stay healthy as well as to heal, we have to address all those 4 pillars. So I've covered the physical with the food, exercise, hydration, sleep. The mental healing is about understanding that we need to slow down because our mind can be rushing, rushing, rushing. So we need to look at being mindful in the moment, being right present in that moment, practicing gratitude, but also challenging our mind as well so that it doesn't get lazy. It's always open to learning. And things like jigsaws, puzzles, learning a language, anything that you enjoy doing. The spiritual work is about coming back inside of ourselves to that little voice that quite often we've dissociated from because our ego shouts at us and this voice is quiet. So if we can reconnect with that inner voice, whatever name you want to give it, that's our spiritual health. And then, as I say, the emotional health is about understanding what's happened in our past and how we're holding it inside of us. Because it's not so much the fact that we've been through traumas, and trauma can be capital T, as in physical, emotional, neglect, sexual, all those massive T traumas. But it can also be little t traumas, as in being made fun of, being held back, being had nasty things said to you, not having many friends. So all of those form little t traumas. And that child inside of us is still holding on to those as the child it was at that time. So it's about addressing who we were at that time and what was going on in our lives and how we're actually holding on to that inside of us. And that emotional healing is huge in the whole health and healing construct.
I like how you said that little child in us is hanging on. Unfortunately, it hangs on for like a while until we do the work. I recently ran into some friends I was in school with at middle school. And middle school, I had like an intense stutter. And I don't really stutter much now as an adult. But when I met them, I was like, I was stuttering again. And it made me, what was that? Right? There was a connection that was made. And, oh, this is who they think you are. So let's be consistent with that. Right? And so I feel like our life gives us so many messages and cues that something needs to change, right? Something needs to change. The thing is, are we open enough to, or not busy enough to listen to it and take heed?
Yes, and I like that you said open enough, because it's when I was challenged about my beliefs, thankfully I was open-minded enough to go, well, what does she mean? Why would she say that? And got really curious about, well, what else is there? Whereas a lot of people just say, no, that's it. That's not possible. And I've had people email me, actually, and one lady recently said, you can't heal MS. But I couldn't message her back because she either deleted the profile or blocked me. But there's people out there that have the belief that healing's not possible for them, or certain diseases are not possible to be healed. And it's that belief that will stop them from healing.
Yeah, because I find like the diagnosis could be more stronger than any form of possibility. Like I shared with you my diagnosis. And I remember when I was diagnosed, I came home and I was in shock and my place was clean, but I just kept on cleaning, right? Because it was the only thing that I could control, right? And my place was spotless and I'm still cleaning. The sun came up, right? And so I can imagine how people continue to spiral down a road because yes, the possibility is there. I knew that that wasn't the final chapter. I knew that it was possible to reverse that, but getting over that mountain of the diagnosis, which could create a shock within yourself that is a mountain, right? Like I have to do a lot of work just to come over the shock of the news, right? Before I even begin to broach the subject of healing myself, right? And so I find like a lot of people where there's block is there, empathy is what is needed. What's your thoughts?
Yes, absolutely. Because there's those people that will take it on board and then say, well, actually, I've created this because we co-create everything in our life.
Right.
Therefore, I can heal this. But then there's other people who are not able to even see that. They will just say, I have been diagnosed with this and the doctors told me I can't heal. And for them, that's all they will see. They will not be open to anything else because the doctor is a person of authority. And we've been
Hmm.
raised to respect and believe people in authority. So if we're going to say, well, actually, are you really sure? Not many people would challenge a doctor because of his level of authority. But it's about understanding part of us might believe that we can heal. But another part of us, especially when we're way down the line into a chronic illness, will have built a life around that illness and the support group around that illness. And to heal from that and step outside of the life that they know that is the familiar, uncomfortable, because it's never comfortable having a chronic illness. To step outside of that familiar becomes unfamiliar, which can be just too much to comprehend because their life would be radically different if they healed.
Yes, most definitely. Which healer story in Heal Yourself surprises you the most?
Surprises me. I think the gentleman who had MS documented that he'd had the scans which showed the lesions to prove he had the MS. And he was in a wheelchair when he ended up in the doctors. And his brother took him to the doctor's appointment and they both watched the doctor go on Google and look for answers. And he said
That's
it
so
was a
wild.
light bulb moment like, well, if the doctor can do that, I can do that. So
Wow.
he turned his life around and started going to the gym and is actually now a bodybuilder. And then he left his job and set up his own company. And he's had scans last year. I watched on Facebook, he posted all of his scans were completely normal. All the lesions had gone. He no longer had MS.
And but was that a cross between like diet and like healing? Like what was the remedy there?
So at the time, he only documented, because it's written in my book, that he changed his diet and he started to exercise. But I've since spoken to him and he said he's now starting digging into the emotional work because he understands there's an emotional aspect, even though there's no lesions in his brain at all. They've all gone with diet and exercise. But he knows there's a massive emotional underpinning, and he started to write his own book about his childhood, which, quite frankly, was hideous, for want of a better word. He went through absolute hell with everything that went on in his childhood. So when you look at that, it's no surprise that he developed the MS. But that said, he's only started to deal with the emotional side of it now after his lesions have gone.
How did gratitude and forgiveness pull you from suicidal thoughts?
Oof. Do you know, I realized after, must have been about 6 months down the line, that I was practicing gratitude and mindfulness. It's one day when I was out I was in such a dark depression with suicidal thoughts that I just put my head down, walk. We had 2 chihuahuas, so I had to take them out for walks. Head down, walk the dogs because I have to, because it's not fair for them to stay at home all day inside. And one day I just looked up. I don't know what it was. I don't recall that there was a noise that made me startle and look up. I just remember looking up from the footpath in front of me and seeing the buds on the trees. And then I saw the spring flowers on the verge, and I heard the river. Well, it's a little stream running down the side of the footpath that I was on. And I suddenly became aware of the outside world. So then I started looking for more beautiful things in nature. and just saying, oh, thank you. I see a tiny bit of blue sky in the grey because I was living in the UK at the time. And oh, how beautiful all these flowers are on the ground. And I wasn't aware consciously of what I was doing. As I say, it was about 6 months down the line. And when I realized what I was doing, I started doing more of it. And when we look for things to have gratitude for, and we're in that moment, we see more beautiful things. It's like you have to believe there's magic to see magic. And there I was, seeing this magical nature all around me. And that in itself helps to lift our mood. So practicing mindfulness and gratitude brings us back into ourselves. It grounds us in that moment, but it also helps us to find more things to be grateful for.
Tell us about your podcast. What do you talk about? Where can people find it?
Thank you. My podcast used to be called Heal Yourself after my book, but I did a rebrand on January the 1st. So it's now called Mind Body Medicine for Self-Healers. And I interview people who've healed themselves of a diagnosis, sharing the what they had and the how they've healed themselves to give my audience hope and to maybe change the belief that actually, if this person on this podcast has healed themselves, then there's hope for me. If they can do it, then I might be able to do it. Just like I read on the internet of people healing themselves and started my own journey. My aim is to inspire people to start their own healing journey, healing the mental, the physical, the emotional, and the spiritual, and to know that healing happens. And here's all this proof. Because somebody said, how do we know that the people in your book are real? They could just be fictitious.
Right.
Apart from they've provided their contact details, their websites. So by showing people on the podcast, real human beings sharing their own story in their own words, I'm hoping to inspire people.
Most definitely. Listen, this portion of the podcast, I kind of want to switch gears here. We talk shop for a bit, kind of want to switch gears. I call this the lightning round. I never tell my guests beforehand because I want to get the real you. So I'm going to hit you with some fire rapid questions and then see how you do, sir. You ready?
Yes.
Coffee or tea?
Oh, coffee.
Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Favorite quote or phrase you think about often?
The quote and phrase that got me through my darkest times and still continues to carry me today is by Henry Ford. If you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got.
Always got. I love that. I love that. Favorite book?
Well, it's got to be Heal Yourself by Sarah Dawkins.
Shameless plug. That's what's up. Let's see this. Favorite movie or streaming series?
I haven't had a television for nearly 15 years, so I have no idea what's on the television or on movies. And before that, I didn't watch much anyway, so I don't.
Lucky you. Okay, let me ask you this. A bucket list item that you are either looking to accomplish or you have accomplished in your life?
I want to accomplish going around the world doing in-person talks from stages live.
Amazing. Listen, Sarah Dawkins, I thank you for being here. I learned a lot. Where can people find you? Where on the web can they reach out?
Thank you, Andrew. On my website, which is my name, www.sarahdawkins.com.
SarahDawkins.com. All right, you guys heard it here first. Again, thank you for being a guest. I learned a lot. Our guests have learned a lot. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Andrew.